you'd have to just have an understanding of geology. You'd have to have an understanding of... This fellow Darius didn't just understand war. He understood how things are made and how they work. Diverts the river into another direction. I believe it flowed into a basin or made a lake or something like that. So he understood the geography around there. And then while they're all feasting, they come walking in through the riverbed, get up underneath the city walls, and just overthrow the city. So this fellow Darius has got some brains about him, I would submit to you, just from his military tactics. It was brilliant. But not only that, he has the ability to recognize leadership. I mean, there are incredibly intelligent people in the world who don't know what to do with their brains. And that's true. I've met some people that are really smart, and they just do some of the least intelligent. I said least intelligent because I didn't want to say that word. They say some of the things of the word that Mrs. Dolan said for me. Things that are possible to be done. And I agree with you about that's a good use for the word. Well, anyway, so intelligent doesn't mean you make the right decisions. Well, this fellow Darius makes good decisions. And in the kind of position that he's in, it's hard to survive. It really is a matter of there is a great deal of betrayal. There are constantly individuals lying in wait to usurp you and take your position. And Darius himself is a conqueror. He's conquered other individuals, and there are people wanting to conquer him. And so he has an individual who is in charge of everyone else working for him, who is Daniel. And I want to remind you this evening, if the book of Daniel, if this portion of the Scripture devotes this much time to pointing out the demise of individuals who allow pride to become a part of their life, if it points it out that much, that it becomes a theme, a recurring theme in a book of the Bible, might you and I not do well to be careful about the sin of pride? So here's Darius, I think we'd agree is wise. I think we would agree is a good judge of human character. Do you know the downfall of most people who know people and have smarts and savvy about people? You know what the downfall is? Pride. Pride. Flattery. Let me just make a statement this evening. The book of Proverbs makes it a lot of different ways, but let me just make a statement about flattery, and it won't be very quotable, so just remember the concept. And that is this: the person who is flattering you is probably looking to overthrow you. The person who is flattering you is most likely looking to overthrow you. You could put it this way: the flatterer is not a friend. The flatterer is not a friend. Here are 120 individuals that are not concerned about the best for the Medo-Persian Empire. They're concerned because an individual has been placed over them and they don't like it. What's their motive? Well, the text makes it very clear. They don't like Daniel because he's over them. They want to be where he is. And the way to get where he is from their mindset is not to be faithful and wait till he croaks. Or wait till they're promoted. Their way is to eliminate him. Like, this guy's been around forever. I mean, he's probably 80. You know, he's been through Nebuchadnezzar. He's been in Darius' kingdom for quite a while. We know that by the time Belshazzar died, he was pushing 80 years old. So he didn't, based upon, you always thought of Daniel by this time as being quite a bit younger, but no, he's an old man. He's an old man when he's called in to speak to Belshazzar. So he's pushing 80 years old. He's either 80, in his 80s, or nearing. He's an old man. He's a wise old man. And he's fully competent to be the number one guy next to the king. Well, here he is. Honestly, folks, I'll tell you the best thing in the world to do would be to learn what Daniel does, imitate it, and wait for him to die. Really. I mean, how long is a guy who's 80 going to want to be put in charge? Anything can happen at that point. These fellows want it now. And so they go to Darius, and they know Darius is not a fool. So they begin to flatter. And you know that the wisest individual can become just inept with flattery. Boy, I've seen this a lot of times. I've seen men that have a lot of discernment, a lot of wisdom. Boy, I've seen them fall for ladies that flatter them. and just get destroyed. We read the account of the young men in the book of Proverbs, and how by the flattery of her lips she forces him, and he goes after her. It says well, I'm having a hard time quoting it, but as a ox to the slaughter. And it says, till a dart strike through his liver, as a bird hasteneth to the snare, and knoweth not that it is for her life. Yeah, with her much fair speech she caused him to yield. With the flattering of her lips she forced him. You know, Darius was a hard man to flatter. Darius was a hard man to flatter. I would submit to you this evening that you and I would be easier to do a flattery job on than Darius would. You know, Darius, you're the smartest man in the world. You are so intelligent, and you're so smart. You're probably smarter than anybody else. And Darius would be like, true. I know. Darius, boy, you're just such a powerful king. I mean, you've just got so much power. And he'd say, you know, that's evidenced by my position. In other words, you don't get where he was by being, what was that word? Stupid. You don't get where he was by being weak. So Darius is the strongest, the smartest. I don't imagine he would have been lacking in any area that any of these men would have known about. And so they come to him and they appeal to him in a way that makes him lose his reason. And the second thing that you and I can understand, first thing about flattery is the person who's flattering you is not your friend. The second thing you can remember about flattery is that when you listen to flattery, you lose your reason. When you listen to flattery, you lose your reason. And Darius regained his reason before this situation was over and done with. But these fellows had no respect for him at all. And that's the third thing I want to see tonight. Look at this. They said, these men, this is them taking counsel among themselves, we shall not find any occasion against this Daniel, except we find it against him concerning the law of his God. Then these presidents and princes assembled together to the king. By the way, they understood law, didn't they? Daniel knows his law. We know the law of the Medes and Persians. And so they're going to take the law and they're going to use it against Daniel, and they're going to use it against the most powerful man in the world, the king. And they're going to try to do it in a way that uses him to take the blame. So here's what happens. All the presidents of the kingdom, the governors, the princes, the counselors, and the captains have consulted together. Now, I would just guess tonight that a person who will flatter would also lie. A person who will flatter will also lie. Right? I mean, is it true that Darius is the greatest god? He's not even a god at all. That's a lie. And I would believe that it would be a little suspicious to make the statement and have it be true that all the captains and all the princes and all the counselors had consulted together about this thing. I'd say it was a few of them that claimed to represent the people. And usually that happens in the upper echelons of politicians. Politicians usually claim to represent the people, and when they proactively legislate, etc. I promise you that the politicians of California, which are pro-homosexual and pushing for all these laws, I promise you that the House of Representatives and that the Senate and that the governing bodies of the United States, when they make these liberal laws, for instance, what happened with the judge in Iowa going against the voters in Iowa and just ruling that homosexual marriage is legal, he's not concerned with who he represents, and he doesn't actually represent who he says he does. Go meet some people in Iowa and tell me that they're for same-sex marriage. They're against it, they're opposed to it, and they'll get rid of that judge eventually. But that's what's going on here, I believe, with these individuals. They themselves may believe that they represent everybody, but I don't believe that they represent all the captains, all the military, these people that Darius is working with and wanting to promote him to God. Well, now, it says, we all have decided to make that